like Alex said, my name's Jack Wagner. I'm the president of Michigan Justice Advocacy. We're the good time people. We're working on good time legislation. That's one of many policies, good policies that are out there, like second look, juvenile life without parole, good time. We're not only doing the legislative package, which Rep. O'Neill introduced for us and spearheaded, we're also now working on a ballot initiative, and that's when the voice of the people can go directly to these legislators out loud. You don't have to go visit Lansing. All I need is your signature on a petition sheet. So come visit us about that later. I want to go back now and remember a time 2 years ago when MJA, with the help of Bonnie, had our first rally here in Flint. It was at a point in time when I met some other criminal justice reform leaders. We had just kind of started at MJA. And that's when I met Rep. Amos O'Neill, who enthusiastically embraced the good time makes good sense. I've heard him chanting that in public, and I love it. So, but back then, after the event, we went out to dinner, and I had the opportunity to break bread with some criminal justice reform leaders that I had never met before. And one of them, I think it was Percy Glover, asked me, Jack, why are you involved in this fight, right? So I'm an electrical engineer. I've been out of prison since I was a teenager at 16. I never looked back for 40 years, raised a family of 6 kids. I wasn't paying any attention to it. And the sad truth is, why did I get involved? Because somebody close to me, somebody I love, somebody in the family, got entangled by the criminal justice system. And it's a sad thing to say that that's how you get involved until it hits close to home, until it hits you right between the eyes. You think like I did. Well, the way I thought was, well, if somebody's in prison, they probably did something to deserve it. Was I wrong? Terribly, terribly wrong. There are innocent people sitting in prison. All right?
Say that.
There are people who are being overpunished in prison. So after I saw this firsthand play out, as an engineer, I started picking apart this process, right? I started looking at what was wrong and how it works and how it's stacked against people. Excessive and coercive charging by the prosecutor. Now, Ellie left, I think, but not all prosecutors are bad actors, but a lot of them are overcharging people to force plea deals, right? You get cornered by, hey, you're going to do life, but maybe you'll cop a plea to these lower charges. Well, how about we talk about the facts? Well, in a plea deal, you're not talking about the facts in the courtroom where you're discovering them. You're talking about facts getting negotiated away in the back door, the back rooms of the courtrooms. And the judge, well, take mandatory minimum sentences. Even if you go to trial, if you're found guilty, the judge's hands are tied by mandatory minimums. So this thing is just broken in so many ways. We just wanted to start on one thing, which is the good time policy. So we'll talk more about that. But this is what our justice system looks like today. And this is kind of why I got involved. But that's the first level answer I'm going to give you. And today I'm going to share more intimately what's deep down in my heart about why I care. We're in a church. I think it's appropriate then that I explain this. If you ever get an email from me, or if you have a loved one inside and they get an MJA email, at the bottom I put this Bible verse. It's Proverbs 29, verse 7, just the first half. I'm going to walk you through this one. The righteous care about justice for the poor. There's 4 pieces to this. It's really, let's break it down. There's this group called the righteous. Let's put that aside for a minute. You got to figure out if you're in that group or not. I'm not going to do that for you. There's a second piece of this, and that's to care about, to consider something. Matter of fact, there's another translation that reads, the righteous considers the cause of the poor. Third, there's this concept of justice, and then there's this other group called the poor. So I'm going to contrast that first part of this verse, the righteous, with another group later. But let's walk through this second piece, carefully considering the cause of the poor. The righteous care about. What's it mean to care about? Well, it means to get to know something, to acknowledge it, to become aware of it, to become acquainted with it, to become familiar with it. It means to care. And what do we care about? Justice. All right, this third piece is tough because justice is a tough thing to nail down. You know it when you see it, or maybe I should say you know it when you don't see it happen in a courtroom. When you see people lying, when you see people cheating, you see it, and your heart latches onto this idea of justice, and you want to see it. You want to see it done right. But you're not going to see perfect justice this side of eternity. All right, but that still doesn't mean we don't strive for it, that our heart aches for it. We want justice, and we especially want it for the poor. Now, why do I care about the poor? Well, if you're poor, you don't have access to some of the ways other people get justice in this system. Let's walk through that. Man's system of justice, and that's what I'm talking about, men who are in power, who write the rules, the administrators of those rules, our lawmakers, our governors, prosecutors, right on down to your local government, they get justice in a different way. Take cash bail. If you're poor, you don't have cash to get yourself out of jail, right? You can buy your way out of jail, and then you can mount a legal defense if you're not poor. Oh, speaking of legal defense, you can hire a good lawyer if you're not poor. But the cards are stacked against you if you're poor. All right? That's what really I see as the problem. This system of justice really is broken. And if you have money, it works. If you don't, it doesn't. But this is why Proverbs 29:7 gets something to me. I have become sensitive to the topic of the poor. My eyes have been opened to this experience through my own life, and now I care about justice for the poor. It's because the cards are stacked against you if you're poor. But God puts a sense of right and wrong in everybody's heart, and I can't ignore it anymore. I see the way our justice system fails to administer true justice, and I want to see real justice, genuine justice working here on earth, like God's perfect justice. All right, let me give you the rest of this verse, because this is the second half of the verse you don't see on my email. The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no concern. The wicked have no concern. There's a group identified as the wicked. They simply don't care. They don't care about justice. They don't care about the poor. Indeed, the wicked are just completely ignorant about the cause of the poor, clueless, all right? And that comes from a lack of concern. And I found myself in that camp before it hit home. I was one of that group, the wicked. I was in that group because I didn't care about justice. I didn't care about the poor. Somewhere deep down inside of me, a switch got flipped. And that's when I started to care. That's why I'm here today. Thank you.